Can you tell time in binary? I sure can't, but maybe this clock will help me learn. As you probably know if you're watching this, computers count in binary numbers, but humans not so much. Most cultures around the world count in a base 10 numbering system, more commonly known as decimal, because normally humans have 10 fingers, so that makes it easy for us to count. And while decimal numbers are based on powers of 10, binary numbers are based on powers of 2, hence the name of this clock. I don't know why they were able to get a registered trademark on that, but it's the powers of 2 BCD clock, and BCD stands for binary coded decimal because normally this does not display pure binary numbers. It displays a binary representation of decimal numbers, making it a little bit easier for humans to decipher its display. It has crystal blue LEDs, and it was made by a company called Analace. Tell time in a high-tech style. It's not just a light show, it's a clock. It's fun to watch the constantly changing patterns in this light display, but the best thing about this compact unit is that it's actually a clock. It uses binary code, the language of computers, to show the time. After a few minutes practice, you'll be able to read the time by adding the values of the lit LEDs in each column. Well, we'll see if it only takes us a couple minutes to figure this thing out. This can actually be set to direct binary mode in addition to binary coded decimal, and it has a dim button to change the brightness of the LEDs, which is good because these blue LEDs are notorious for being blindingly bright. And if this is a clock, you want to have it on all the time, and you don't want it lighting up your whole room at night. 12 or 24 hour mode automatically senses 50 or 60 hertz, and 90-day warranty. Includes the clock, AC power adapter, and instructions. And there's their website and the part number. And there's their brief description of how to read it, but we'll go over that more later. As maybe you could tell by the slightly ragged state of that box, I did not get this brand new. I actually found this at the thrift store. It's one of the more unique items I've ever seen at a thrift store. But it did include all the original contents, the clock, the power adapter, and the instruction pamphlet. And you can still buy this new today. It cost about $30 with free shipping. And the Analace company has multiple different models of binary clocks. The included power supply puts out 9 volts AC, and it has to be AC rather than DC because the clock uses the AC line frequency as a timing reference. On the back there are buttons to set the hours and minutes, and if you push both of them simultaneously, it resets the seconds to 0. And down here near where the power plugs in is a button to dim the display. You get 3 levels of brightness. When you first plug it in, you get an animated display which serves as your reminder to set the clock because this does not have a battery backup. And I'm going to turn this down to the minimum brightness, which is still pretty bright. It still kind of dazzles the camera, but not nearly as bad as full brightness. And you read it from left to right just like a normal clock. You get 2 digits for the hours, 2 digits for the minutes, and 2 digits for the seconds. So right now this column is not showing anything, so that's a 0. This one is showing the first LED. You read it from bottom to top, and this is 1, 2, 4, and 8 in binary. So that's showing a 1 for the hour. So we're 1 o'clock and something. This column is also not showing anything, so that's another 0. So it's 10 something. And here's another 1. So it's 101, and we're not going to worry about the seconds right now. So if I set the minutes, right now it's 101. That's 102, because this is 1, 2, 4, and 8. That's 3, because you add 1 and 2. So 1, 2, 4, and 8. You add 1 and 2, you get 3. There's 4. 5 is 4 and 1. So you got to do this math in your head. It just incremented to, let's see, that's 2 and 4, that's 6. So that's 1, 2, and 4, that's 7. And that's 8, and that's 9. 8 and 1 is 9, and that's 10. We get a 1 in this column and a 0 here. There's 2 ways to think of reading this clock. One is doing the math in your head, and the other way is simply pattern recognition. There's only a limited number of patterns for 0 through 10, And you could pretty easily memorize all 10 of those patterns. I mean, one of them is just nothing lit. That's obviously 0. So you really only have 9 patterns to memorize. So if you can memorize those 9 patterns, you can learn to read this pretty easily, even if you don't understand binary numbers, and even if you're not actually doing the math in your head. It's just like how I know the Japanese word for stereo, even though I have no clue what the characters mean or how to pronounce it, because it appears on the display of this Japanese market Panasonic radio whenever I tune in an FM or AM stereo broadcast. That symbol right there is Japanese for stereo. I should mention that unlike flip clocks and Nixie tube clocks, there is no historical product that this is trying to recreate or be an homage to. There was never a point in history where somebody said, you know those new computer chips we created that compute in binary? We should use them to make a new kind of clock that's less readable to humans. So this is purely for the novelty factor, for the decorative factor, and for the educational factor. And I know some people will want me to take this thing apart, but unfortunately it's clipped together with rather firm clips that will probably require destructive force to take apart, so that's not going to happen. But it's a modern product, so there's probably not much interesting to see in there anyway. Just a single circuit board, a couple integrated circuits on it, and a bunch of very bright blue LEDs. But I am curious to see what would happen if I ran this on 9 volts DC instead of the 9 volts AC that the included power supply puts out. So I have it connected to my Radio Shack Universal DC power adapter set to 9 volts. And now I'm going to plug it in. And that's the normal light show it puts on when you first plug it in. So first let me dim down the display to something less dazzling. And that appears to be working normally. It's counting up the seconds. Let's see, that's the minutes. And that's the hours. So I have to take back what I said about it using the AC line frequency as a timing reference. Clearly it does not. So I don't know why the box says automatically senses 60 or 50 hertz when it's not sensing anything. It's just converting it to DC and then internally generating its own time reference. So let's see if I can really read the time on this with just a few minutes practice like the box says. That's a 1, that's a 2, so that's 12 o'clock and something. This digit is 1 and 2, that's 3, and that's nothing lit, so that's 0. So it's 12:30, not really, but that's what this is set to. And I'm not going to bother with the seconds because that's changing too fast for me to keep up with. But it's 12:30. Now I changed it to something a little bit more challenging. That's 1, 2, and 4. So that's 7. So it's 7 o'clock and something. That's 1 and 2, that's 3. So it's 7:30 something. And that's 1 and 8, so it's 7:39. And according to the manual, you can set it to 24-hour mode by holding the dim button while pressing the hours button. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and we should have 13 now. Yeah, so it's 13 o'clock, and let's see, that's 1, 2, that's 13:41, and that's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then 21, 22, 23, and it should reset back to 0, and it does. So that's the 24-hour mode. And like the box and manual says, it also has a true binary mode, but I'm not going to bother with that because it's already difficult enough for me to read it in the regular mode. But realistically, I don't think most people are actually going to use one of these to tell time in binary. They're just going to use it as an animated LED light show that happens to represent the time in an arcane form. So that's about it for the Crystal Blue Powers of 2 BCD binary coded decimal clock from Annalase. Available for about $30 or less if you can find a used one at a thrift store like I did.